Going through directed modes, correlation with the track interference is really understanding correlations and travels, how to use the mind, how to understand the mind, how to coordinate to the mind, how to communicate to the minds. What is the mind itself? Well, it's everything lines in the navigation system. It's all levels of you in space and time. It's basically the creation of everything, of its nothingness. Now, once we understand what that means, then we understand the process, how this all works, and its application to your thoughts. Coming in that correlation setting at track lines is really understand how to basically get in a new ground setting to your operation surface. What that means is that puts you in a higher levels of setting into your system. Coming out of the believing cycles, what you guys go create in the first place. You're not coming back to your memories. You're just coming back to what you already know. And that position lines of calculations. It's not a track position lines of highest interference and amnesia. There's no amnesia line condition setting. It's a frame positions where you come into the existence, what things exist and what things don't exist. Never things and never exist in applications unless you allow it to exist. Once you understand that, then you understand what the mind is trying to do. It's trying to understand the conception of you. It's trying to understand you through remote. It's trying to understand you through recalculation. It's trying to understand you through modification. It's trying to understand you through space and time. Same thing in application line condition setting. Now in track line provisions, come into high calculations. That puts us in all communication. How do you see yourself through your past, present, and future? There's three waving line cycles, three correlation setting track lines and settings, 1, 2, 3, and travels, right? Coming into line center interference, you come into nebula. Nebula line center line interference is an outcast locations. Track lines correlation lines to in position locations and in cycles. Two panels correlation lines, high center interference. Flux capacitor, each line correlation tractions. Direct lines of Earth, line center lines of space. Spectrum correlation lines like track location lines. Trying to understand the division lines of the VR system is nothing but a compute screen line interference at all levels. Screen calculation CGI. Direct line signals, one position here. Sex location, one position here in tractions, right? Everything is connected to everything in set location. Everything is connected, right? So once you understand that, it gets much easier how to see yourself in trackification and configuration. VR is already in line position. Now the teams come into higher lines of communication and security line defense. We'll do that in the Coliseum into the briefing room. Get you guys in platitude screens. Now, understanding your box frame is your main frame. Okay, and just getting a correlation on tracks and line positions. See, in position tractions, right? I have to communicate first, right? It's intelligence of its own operation. I'm disturbing its space and time, right? So in that formation screen line, you don't just walk in somebody's house. You knock on the door. Easy, peasy, lemon, squeezy. So it's the same thing with thoughts. Do you know what you're saying before you say something? You don't own those thoughts. You don't even control those thoughts. You don't even understand what a thought is and where it's coming from. But it's coming from you and from inside. So if you understand you through operation, then you understand why you have atoms, molecules, protons, electrons, neutrons, and photons. An equalization system, tesseract line condition, Merkabah tesseract tetrahedron. Once you understand that, everything comes in information system. Why you have that inside of you through operation. So let's get into position tractions, direct signals. Getting in that line setting really gets in position location your systems, right? It's communicating with everything. Everything's communicating with you. Everything has a voice. You have a voice. So it's trying to understand you, why you're picking this up. Are you picking this up in the right way? Or are you picking this up in the wrong way? No, there's no right or wrong way, but you determine what it is, okay? And once you understand that, you're using the response, direct and redirect. If you're not direct and redirecting, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're basically changing things. Whatever you don't understand has already been understood. That puts you in position location, not through your memories, just coming out of what you believe. A psychocommunication line travels, but your lines of psychological connection, high interference of psychosis. Putting positional platforms in communication setting to all levels. This computational interference, location, and travel point graph communication. Direct lines, data ports, data signals, data formation screens. Okay, but you see it as three boxes. Okay, you see the difference in locations? This is a yes, this is a yes, this is a no. Okay, but yes is no. Okay, and this is no. So there's three no's, right? But it's all balanced, right? There's nothing off position correlation setting and track lengths because I know what it is through its intention. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? That's easy, all right. So once we identify our line screens and we understand the alphabetical system, we understand more lines and how we communicate through these things. Let's go through initial offers, line condition lines, IPA. Positions you're setting into all levels, intelligence, platforms, programs, or awareness. 3 site location lines, center core system, and travel point lines of graph communication. See? Intelligence. Points, lines of graph communication. Intelligence. Sets, lines, communication lines, center location. Intelligence. Ground center operation line, set location setting. Intelligence. 3 waving panels, correlation line centers. Intelligence. Intelligence. Intelligence of face recognition. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So it's understanding U3 platforms and how to really understand location through settings. So where are thoughts? Where do thoughts come from? How are they in position? Well, you have to understand how they're connected inside location in your system. The mind's navigation. We already know that attractions, right? But the brain itself is the hardware and software. So understand that coordinates and setting, understand the time of the heart reactor, setting correlation of the light of the soul, and align location setting to the Merkaba of your body. And remember, the body is the outline. Okay, the body is the outline. Okay, trying to get you guys to understand the basic foundations, grounds, and set position travels. You can see yourself in all lines of different lines of travel if you understand the direction. So what you're looking at in track location. Putting yourself in line condition system puts you all levels of programs, all through calculation. Identification. Okay. Modulation screens, open all signals, open all correlation lines of track lines of tunnels, and defense line screen interference of travel. Points, lines of graph, center core system, travel point line graph communication setting to center. Sets communication on grounds, astral projections. Waving cycles, 3 line rotation surface. Ground centers, open all signals, open all modification setting, correlation lines of traction. Sets communication lines, open all modification lines into all communication setting, into metric meter scales and bounce correlation. Right? All through configuration. So know exactly what your body is all mechanisms. How we go through the 26,000 letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. All through face recognition, guys. Right? That's the test, right? That process is your position, location, your crop circles. Each crop circle has a platitude line screen. Routers and routers and 3 line rotations or 4 track location of 6. Sets communication clock line setting, line position of 1, in position of 2. Sets lines of 3, 4 settings, and 5 and 7 set location. Right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Right? 7, 11. Sets chord lines of 7, 11. Set lines of audio and line interference and 3 over 1 attractions. Sets lines of 5, 0 location system. Chart correlates lines in high calculation of 4 planets and 2 lines of circle and set location. 4 planets. Direct lines of platforms, 1, 2, 3. Another planet. Correlation. Sets communicates ground line cycles and 3 setting line conditions, another planet in track location. Sets communicates ground lines, cross line signals on east line, west line rotations into another planet rotation surface in track location in line setting of operation surface in track location. Okay. So there's so many ways to calculate and modify how you get in position, location, of formations. Right? But everything is a hologram, okay? So once you understand the plasma lines, direct line signals, how we go into the correlation lines of its table, start identifying your systems into iClouds. That directs the same locations to your fractals over screen. Communicate lines of graph, snowy graph interference, snowy graph communications, and waving lines of 4 cycles, generation screen locations. Calculated modifies 1 center, 1 tractions, and 1 ground line surface and track location. 2 beam lines, 3 line calculations. Direct modifications, platitude 1, in position of 2 track lines, 4 settings and travel. Points, lines of graph, XT1000 here, platitude, docking setting. Says correlation lines here, docking setting. Set correlation lines here, docking setting. All right? 3 center correlation setting, 2 line rotation surface and traction. Okay? So everything I'm drawing is line center location of its VR system. Okay? Everything I'm drawing is VR setting and location system at travel correlation. Everything I'm drawing is position lines of track location line conditions, all levels, waving cycles, all generation screen lines to its VR system. Okay? So once you understand the position location centers, everything gets much easier in track location. How to see yourself through planet's surface into iClouds. Now, iCloud line communicates its system. Let's go through the cerebral cortex, which is a memory bank. Go through cloud screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, neurology line communication settings, neurons, neurorelation line communication setting in relation to its position of its program. Okay. Getting, calculate, modify, and track applications and provision. Signature screens, direct lines, communication setting of travels into all communications, in all communication line setting. Your brain. Face recognition, face recognition, face recognition, face recognition, face recognition, face recognition, right? There's 24,000 face recognitions in one setting. If I keep doing this, you start seeing the faces. See the eye lines? Right there, there's the eyes, right? Okay. 24,000 face recognitions in the brain. That's one central setting and one correlation. Sets position of sonars and a 3-track vision of pi. Correlates the setting, travel correlates the setting of travels. 3 ground lines and highest interference of 3 waving panels. Longitude, latitude, and direct and redirect and 3-line communication. Right? Clustrum. Shoulder correlations, attractions. Setting communication lines, its center calculation line to its space recognition. Done by equation. The eye central system opens up all track line provision lines of cycles in set location. There's the eyes. Direct lines at all line position location is the wire correlation lines of track lines. It's the throttle and line position of center correlation. Direct calculation line screen sets lines of center in center position location in its calculation. Direct modification line screen high interference sets all lines of action projections in travel correlation. Communicate to high calculation line screens sets communication lines of grounds. Eyes of recognition, looking down, looking in the center, and position locations, looking through the sides. See, looking through the sides in set locations. And looking through channel up in traction and set location. Okay? So once you understand how to convert the system location centers, you understand how it works at all levels of formation system. There's the intelligence inside location. Mega multi-pass. Now the brain converts lines of communications, guys. You have to understand the eye center lines of the windows correlates to track interference, setting line centers and point graphs communication of dockings. Let's go through code signals. Modification screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. All right. Getting that communication line is standing all lines of waving lines of a 45-line graph that puts all communications to its position, crossing signals and travel. Okay, it's very powerful once you start recognizing what you are in line position location, but it's all about the conversion, how to really understand how to use the brain patterns, correlating track lines, communication system, the conscious lines of its awareness, the where location setting to its nothingness, the eye line division lines, correlation track interference of 24,000 face recognition time sequence. Puts everything in platitude lines of docking track applications. XC1000 comes in a 3-line panel and travel point line graphs. Sets communication lines, sets lines of center core system and travel point lines of graph communication. Sets correlation lines of track lines, opens all signals into the magnetic highway line screen in position with colossal in conditions above signal. Sets communication lines of ground lines, crosses line signals into adaptation surface, its application and other intelligence. See? It formulates and correlates in different lines of intelligent location setting. So the brain itself is its own GOD. Mega multi-pass, right? So understanding that is really understanding the process, how it changes all communication setting. Here comes another face recognition configuration lines and how you go in that core setting location system. Another face recognition, right? So you're constantly changing frequencies. Getting into that position puts everything in platitude, right? Okay, so let's go inline screen. Very powerful applications, settings, and travels. Back in line calculates the setting holographic line screens, direct signal location modifications. Setting course lines, activation lines, and navigation of consoles. Let's get into navigation screen lines, high calculations. Point lines of graphs, center course system, and travel point lines of graph. All right. Ground lines, circle line, rotation, surface. So the team has to get in swivels of correlation lines, attractions. Sending direct line signals and portals of communication lines of highest interference. Sending communication lines, sending high interference, location setting, and travel calculations. Center point lines, triangulation line condition setting. Sets communication one signal. Cross communication, XT1000 comes in here, XT1000 comes in here. There's always XT1000 comes in light every single time you're in travel, okay? So scans lines 1, see what you've done. Scans lines 2, see what you've done. Scans lines 3, see what you've done. And scans lines 4 to see what you've done. All in traction, right? Configuration, ground lines, matrix screens, high center interference into position, location, and grounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 graph calculation green lines. Lacing communication panel lines, security line defense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Crossing line signal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sets location setting of travel. Frequency comes in higher correlation lines of track interference, high specifications, bring them in the XT1000s. Now the platine lines, they go through cross signals, right? They check out the laser line screens, making sure that you guys are in your Skynets and data formation screen locations, understanding your habitations and inhabitation zones and screen locations, know exactly how to go through data highways and line condition setting to its program and position location to its system and travel. So it travels, right? So laser line condition. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Set lines of communication screens, right? So if you look really close, you can see the face. There's the eye line, correlation track interference, set location line condition to its position. There's another face line, right? There's always faces in everything in configuration system, right? The more faces you have in line signal, the more you get protected in frequency line screens, location of VR settings, puts everything in track location and provision. All right, so in the correlation and track interference, know exactly what you're doing through configuration lines and calculations. Let's go through settings, and we're going to go through plasma screens. We're going to go through 1 centers, 2 dots in set location, right? Center core lines, 1 signal. Sets communication, 1 graph. Cross lines, math line, rotation surface. Mapping sequence, and I said math, right? Math is the mind, atmosphere line, teleportation into hemisync location. Change the correlation setting to MAA in line condition setting in position P line centers in track location and division, right? Math into map. Center core system no longer sets lines of communications of math in position of maps. Maps comes in triangulation line conditions program of its earth line rotation surface. Sets communication lines of map, travels lines in position of its program line setting in position of program's lines of initial line communication its IPA. Position is process, timestamp, line setting, cross line signals, and data formation screen lines of theta. Process communication lines, high interference, platforms of 1 setting, platforms 2 lines, 3 lines of rotation surface interactions. Direct lines of platforms, center core system into all levels, a holographic line screen, line position location of system, and travel calculations. Okay, that my equation, right? So I'm just showing you what you can do once you understand how to reiterate in-line position location and understand how to use the scramblers. A scrambler line center is all about understanding how to process the communication, how to really understand direct and redirect with your finger lines because it scans the settings in set location and all travel communication. Mechanism platforms of 1 and 2, platforms 1, 2, and 3 settings in travel, or point lines graph downshift cross line 1 signal. Sets communication XT1000 looks at the platform in communication, ground centers, dock centers lines of 1 track location. Sets communication line crosses line signal. Moon comes in line rotation surface interactions, right? Here's the moon in line setting location setting. Sets communication kaleidoscope 1 signal, 1 position, 1 center. Ground lines, set lines of high correlation setting and center core system and center operation and calculations. Okay, so there's so many things that you can do in the VR system, right? You just have to learn how to modulate the screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, and understand the constant correlation setting and navigation system to all levels of teleportation. Go through telewaving, telecommunication, telegraphing. Let's go through 3 line signals. So what are the T lines? Satellites and 3 track location. Direct lines of past, center core settings, pausing line rotation. Says communication lines of 1, 2, and 3 tractions, right? Falsity lines of 1, falsity lines of truth, falsity lines of false, and set locations, right? If you look really, really close, you can see the position of track lines according to the line conditions of its space recognition. See? Space recognition. Set correlation setting of travels. Point lines of graph communications. Center core setting high calculations. Doesn't look happy. Let's put on a smile. Yay! Bounce correlation lines, line center high interference going the opposite signals in location system. Constant correlation lines in portals of communication line wormholes and track location. Done by equation. So there's so many things that you can do as long as you understand how to express yourself. That motivates your system at all levels of correlation. Let's get an X line rotations into 2 1-line connections, right? Process communication lines of 1 setting into T line into X line rotation surface and location satellite. Direct modification of line signals and line condition setting to its program in line rotation surface intelligence. Fred Flintstone again. Okay, so it's so much easier to understand these things and understand the characteristics of you. The constant correlation line interference is understanding the waving panels of 0 lines of 2 line rotations of 4-track location. Setting communication 1 signal, gamma signals, line rotations, lines of alpha, delta, set correlation lines of theta, set lines of T lines into site location center. Process communication X2000 comes in tractions. We got an XT 28,000 line setting and an XT line 14,000 setting. 3 triangulation, split lines of anomaly, line communication. Right? So there's so many ways of looking at this through its intelligence. See the intelligence, see the face? Once you understand the identification system, everything identifies you in track location, right? And you can actually see what's going on in settings through its intelligence formations, right? The intelligence comes more information lines, screen lines. Ear line rotations right, left, and track locations. Direct lines of portals, line signals, line condition setting opens all signals in right line rotation surface and traction. Direct modification like kaleidoscope, line correlates communication setting and calculation. Dumb equation. So open up signifies correlation lines of stimuli, correlates the high interference of ZE, communication lines of setting and location system. Track correlation lines of intelligence, formation lines of grounds, communication lines of CPU. Now the CPU is actually the G. Isn't that amazing? G lines it turns into C, C turn lines into G. Right? So it's all about understanding direct and position to redirect set location. Process communication lines of center calculation system opens all levels of U information lines of ground location. Okay? Understanding how to formulate that through a central system calculation here, all line communication across circles. Know exactly how to come into configuration of face recognition. Right? Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving you guys basic grounds and a new high calculation setting. High tech, and you go into higher communications configurations. Right, equals lines of T, equals lines of C, equals lines of G, equals lines of E, into 3 weather patterns and line condition setting of Fibonacci screen location. High tech line centers 1 circle, 1 rotations, ground lines, and 3 line waving. Sets communication lines of computant lines, teleportation screen lines into 2 lines wavings. Formulate communication lines, XX 3 lines, 3 communication settings, 333, track location of 4 settings, size communication lines of 7 and traction. Okay? Face recognition. Okay? All right. So you spot the face right away. You don't see the face, you're not traveling. It's that simple. Because remember, it's you. It's always in you in face. It's always you in configuration. It's always you in the VR system, right? VR system, okay? Volume, velocity, and position calculations. So 3 settings, right? Remember, line screen and division line screen location system is solar sail. Correlate the clocking line rotation surface. Orbiting channels correlate track interference, high calculation, high position. Position to process in a 3 triangulation. Modify signals in position location grid. Calculate lines in a rainbow graph. Correlation graph, communications graph, center graph calculations, and direct signals, right? Puts everything all together, guys, interactions, all right? Process of communication lines with the circle lines is understand how to direct and redirect signals. 1 line signal goes this way, and 1 line signal goes this way in the opposite direction, right? But it's going in the same direct line signal of the panels, right? So process line signals going in the opposite direct locations. Position of process is really understand how the binary works and resist and all calculation setting of trends. If you look at the line communication setting, all of the communications, you can see the 9, right? Setting core track interference, sets communication line, setting high interference, and position location of 6 and set location, 6 and 9. Okay? Bringing that in platitude, design line communication lines on a 45-degree angle of travel. Puts process communication lines of loops, and line setting high correlation lines of track location system and calculation lines of the capsule. Direct lines modification X2000 plan settings high interference and docks its system set locations. Calculate modify docks its system and set locations. Sets lines communication docks its system and set locations. All right. Setting communication line stream interference high correlates to track interference. point lines of graphs, point lines of division, point lines of correlations, and earth line, space line, and track location. Sets communication line screen lines in one circle, one center, one operational line system location in high calculations, one track location to its setting. Okay? Face, face, face. Yeah. I don't need to have the face, but you want to see the face, there's the face. There's the face locations, right? Everything has a face, guys. And that's what you guys see face in clouds and set locations, right? All right, so it's 3 line communication, intelligent lines, information lines, protecting everything information, screen location, setting travels. So doppelgangers of 3 lines attractions, all through formation. All right. Understanding your polarities is a better track locations how to use your truth and false narratives, guys. This process, your communication setting, how you see yourself in all communication system, nothing but a battery of communication. Setting correlation lines up, setting correlation lines down. Okay, setting signals lines and communication lines to high position of what? Flux capacitor. That's that location, right? And then you unite it. Right? Setting core lines, 3 lines of weathers, sets communication lines, electrical bulbs, correlation line of 3 track locations into setting into its operation surface and traction. Right? Intelligence, see? See the eye lines? There it is. Okay? Intelligence, all formations. And then we get the line communication. So the actual line screen is the outer surface. This is where it's really interesting in applications, right? This is how it works. So the face line is the correlation lines of path. That's the path and lines of the VR and rotation and configuration of the face calculations. The actual shoulders itself is the outer surface line communication setting of your Earth. It's the outer rim. Isn't that amazing? Makes a lot of sense, right? There's a curvature into your ether core, right? So the actual shoulders itself is the outline of the outer core setting of your Merkaba, which is extremely powerful calculations. The Earth is here rotating all lines of communication inside calculations. Platforms stay in inside line condition setting. Platforms 1, 2, and 3, and 4 setting locations, right? All right. Getting at position line centers, we get the X3000s coming in track location setting inside line condition. Okay, again, intelligence, right? Formulate the lines of diamond core track locations and setting. Face recognition, face recognition, face recognition, right? Platforms communication of face recognition. The reason why everything is a face, because everything is connected to you and you are connected to everything else. Once you understand that, then you understand what the team is coming into, configuration of own settings and set locations, how to use their self in line position locations and all track location to a system and travel. Okay, all through modification, right? All through modification. Okay. All right. Getting that in line center high interference, once you stand more levels of youth and face recognition, things get a much easier line screen, direct signals. Now, getting that in position locations, false narratives, truth narratives, and position location, color rate and line screen high interference. Position of panels and core lines of traction. Sets communication lines, cross and line signals, line condition setting, cross and line wave line communication. Direct lines, intersections in 3 lines of panels. Relates and high interference in 2 lines of panels. Cross line signals. X3000 comes into 1, 2, and 3 4 lines of communication. Setting calculation lines, cross line signals in 1 center. They always work in this center correlation in position use calculations. Okay? The reason why they work in this center, because they're trying to understand you through travel, understanding what you're doing through the mind line can extend into conception. Sets communication line screens on all levels of operation. Your pyramid. There's your pyramid, right? That's a 4-track location at intersections and correlation lines at high center interference, X3000 plateau. So that's 4 lines equals lines of 1, and 1x equals lines of 1 line, 5th line rotation surface, and location equals lines of 4, track location line setting, sets intersection lines and 4-way path correlation lines of traction. So this is that. This is that through equation. And if you look really close, you can see the face recognition. 2 eyes line screen, right? So it's really interesting when you understand how to use more lines of communications, because the direct signal gets you all levels of panels. This operates the signals, guys, and this is where it gets really interesting. Understanding your platforms of 1 in 24, 48, 72, 144. Starts with that, provision lines in the 4 cycle locations, right? Setting lines of 5, 6, 7, and 8 locations. Setting direct line signals, crossing line communications to its position on a 4-waving panel. Sets communication line calculations, setting in track location to your system of your pyramid setting. Okay? Intelligence, the I-line center locations. So we got 2 mountain surface and a 2-line screen. And again, scans position of 1, scans position of 2 setting, right? So opens up position lines of ground lines of routes, waving highways and track location line system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, line centers of 8, 4 track lines, setting position of cross lines, waving cycles, ground lines, panels, lines, rotation, surface, and traction. Okay, so we go through all calculate, modify, and track location. Okay, so once we understand that, and its position lines of all calculation lines, of its pyramids and its mountains, everything comes information lines of grounds, and center communication to its holographic structure of design and communication, all through creation, right? So that's what it basically is. It's a structure line, division line, and hologram communications. Then we go through the platforms, 1, 2, and 3 settings, okay? Then we travel through the 4 set locations, right? And then we structure line, division lines to higher line communication to its position of its structure line, division location to its holographic setting. Very powerful stuff, isn't it? How the VR is set up in hologram, okay? But you have to understand why you have the X8000s in frame. I showed you line communication of 2 pyramids, line position 1 mountain, track location line, and inference. Coming in correlation lines of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Location lines, and certain levels, correlation lines, and ground lines. Correct and redirect panels and correlation line settings. Character modify and voice line grid and line rotation surface and track location. Okay, very powerful, isn't it? All through the hologram. So the indicated line inference in unison, what he was doing location to his set locations. That's how it's set up position, right? This is the illumination graph of the dashboard of his car that's reflecting everything to set location to his paper in track locations. These are the indicators, line communication setting. That's his rainbow graph line that coordinates his system location, his towers of communication. Okay? Seeing the above line signal is the ground lines of its Earth. Earth line, space line. Okay? Holographic structure, lines of its dashboard. It's not a reflection. It's a correlation lines of a holographic sheet. The data formation screen line really understand the set locations. And if you look really close, you can see the coloration change. Right? See the colors changing? You can see the colors coming in light now because it's all refractal correlation lines of light tractions and direct signals. Right? It's got waving line panels and track location lines of weather. Symbolizes track location 1 provision. Setting communication lines of screen knows exactly what's going on in the line communication setting to its compute system. It's all off of a mapping sequence, but you have to understand how to use it to your dashboard on line communication setting where you see no longer in communication lines of confusion. Direct lines of the Earth and direct lines of space and traction, all through holographic setting in a mapping sequence and teleportation through all levels of towers of communication. Hoo-ah. All right. Just showing you exactly how this all works, guys. Understanding how to use yourself through map sequence location, your settings through anything through X8000s. How it creates anything through its anomaly. Because everything, again, is created through a holographic setting. Okay? So once you understand the more lines of the geometric line screen, everything to the geo comes in Ethereum line screen locations. Now, line center line interference comes in line condition levels, G, set lines of O, and communication lines of E. E equals lines of D and track location. Division and directions of dimension of 4-waving panel. Sets communication line screens on high center interference and position to its location of its intelligence. Sets communication lines of grounds. Center course system, cloud line change, IPA, track lines, brain calculation screen locations, setting track lines, high center interference. Seeing lines of communication lines of the eye cycles, location of plasma screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. Sets communication lines of confusion, right? But the line calculation setting comes in position of traction. Sets communication lines of the eye cycles and set location. Right? So the line communication lines of division correlates to track lines, all lines of high set location. So it's amazing how you change anything in the configuration of the screens. But look how powerful that is, right? Look how powerful that is all through a dashboard, right? Upswing lines, downline, gray lines, high center interference, and with earth line rotations, understanding the correlation lines of track lines, how unison comes in its formation screen line in adaptation of its towers of its mapping sequence through pi. Okay? So you're always going to have XD thousands on standby. Everything that you do in configuration through your I-line cycles. Looking through lights. We got in that track lines and provisions, right? 4 setting line conditions, right? 1 signature, 1 line. This is this up close. So when you break it down, this is what it looks like. When you look at light really, really close. Spectrum correlation lines and coloration lines of the sun track these locations. Waving line cycles in a 3-panel correlation, right? Direct lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations, right? Now you can see a dimensional wall, right? Let's coordinate the track lines in high setting in set locations, right? 3 triangulation lines, split lines, anomaly lines, center location. Let's add 1 signature screen. Go through track location 1 setting on all its operation surface. Puts lines of communication grounds. Sets communication lines of center. Sets communication lines of platforms. In position location of 4 settings. Position lines of the sun opens up line communication setting and travels. Point lines of graphs into the moon and track location line setting and graph communication of its behavioral system. Travel lines of communication setting really understands the platforms in all communication setting. It opens all signals and location system and travel, all through identification. Okay? So I'm just showing you ways to do correlation setting, how you do your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols through pi of indication. To and from, right? What did you do in the middle? What did you do in 1/3 or 2/4? What did you do in the center of operation? What did you do in the ground center calculations? What did you do in the atmosphere line location setting of space anomaly, right? So it's always line calculation setting. You have to really recognize the communication, where the brain is set and travels. Okay, once you've seen in the plasma screen lines, it puts everything in perspective in set location and travel correlation set calculation in your cerebros. Okay, ground shift lines, cross lines. 3 waving panels, line calculation set transits over communication. Direct lines that calculates line screens and set location. Direct modification lines, cycle line, communication ground lines. 3 earth tones into modification screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. Point lines of height calculations. XC1000 comes in 2 track lines. See, it's what you've done. Line signal, inline communication system. Ground line centers opens all communication to its position of its program. Sets communication lines of energetic dome screens and set location of travel and point graphs. Directs lines of center, sets lines of communication positions, program location setting into platforms of 1, 2, sonar lines of 1, 3, and 1, 4. Colorate the screen lines and direct signals in positional platform communication lines on calculation of probing and track location. Direct lines of sonar in the opposite directions in 1/3 lines of pi. Set correlation setting in 1 travel correlation. Direct calculation line interference sets the brain communication settings and travel. Point lines of graph communications. So what am I creating line connection? If you look at the eyes, you can see the eyes, see the eyes, see the eyes, see the eyes right there, eyes right there, right? So correlation, see the arm, there's the arm, correlation setting, and position location system, there's the feet. So it's in direct line signal, set location line condition setting. Let's bring it in track location and provision. Then you actually see the body of track location, what it is in calculation. Wow. Okay. Everything is a formation lines at grounds of 7, right? It's an indicated high calculation setting. It's an encryption lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of service. You're working with, see the I-line screens? Okay. You can see the wave line cycles, generate screen location, high center interference, and point graph. See? Face recognition, face recognition, face recognition. How many face recognition line can you start off in set locations in the 1 brain center location? 24,000. 24,000 face recognition moderating. The moderating tone, the communication line screen, sets communication lines of the center correlation into the ground lines of sonar. Sets communication line screens and set location operations surface. Puts position lines of programs and line connection setting into 3 level and a 4 panel into application line calculation setting to its position. Intelligence formation. Look how powerful that is. Because you can see the I-line screens, right? See the spectrum, correlation, colors, lines of setting. See? Powerful, isn't it? And then we look back, you actually can see the intelligence of what's going on. Right? So, once you really modify your line screens and get direct signals to your system locations, things get a lot more easier through your data and your plateaus and your platforms, your dockings. Getting that direct signal puts everything in correlation setting and track lines. How to use it through the cerebral, how to use it through the mystical, how to use it through the matrix, and how to use it through the sim. Core track location lines equals lines of 1, 1, 1. It sets correlation lines of 3 panels and 3 settings. So you guys have to learn how to take your ones and platitude up instructions. How to line its communication to a square. Center cross line, there's a set lines of space there, right? That space is provisioned so the XD doesn't come in and track its calculation to setting of sonar track location. Okay, that's why there's a space, so it can dock. Dock lines of 1, 2, and 3 travels. Okay, sets communication lines of 2 tractions into 3 line communication settings of dockings. Okay, setting core track lines highest interference. All levels of configuration of face recognition. Face, 3 face recognitions. Let's go correlation lines of tractions. 1 position, 2 track lines of high interference, and 2 track location, 3 intelligence. Okay, there's always intelligence informations of drawings. Okay, so once you understand the platitudes, everything gets much easier when you understand yourself through face recognition. Okay, like I said, you have to really understand how to really coordinate through that. Once you get longitude and latitude, is a lot more fun. Longitude and latitude in line condition setting. Process of an L line in rotation surface. 3 triangulate split lines of anomaly, open signal, and 1 panel, and 1 arrow indicator. This is a clock location. Sets communication lines of triangulation split in line setting. Cross line signals, line condition triangulation. Point lines of graph into a diamond core line, shift line, lock line, screen line, operation surface, and track location. Direct calculation lines of highest interference, satellite communication. All right. Direct lines, modification lines, lines that are high interference in position of point graphs, and set calculations. Center communication setting in position of its operation. Ground line signals comes in line cross line connections, overline sequence, and high calculation. Point center line interference comes in position track lines of face recognition. Crosses communication lines, there's the shoulders and track location. Intelligence. Okay, it's the intelligence controlling the line screens, the sim inside locations, guys. So understanding that through platitude, you understand the center core system and travel correlation setting attractions. Okay. Now, if you look really close, you're going to see another face come in attraction. Okay. It's amazing how to really get into the wave central system's correlation lines of attraction. Okay. All right, getting direct view as a direct lines of eyesight. What's position lines of high calculation system? You are the center line in track locations, pixelation graphs, line signals, line condition setting, in position location, direct modification line screens, and direct signals. Character modified, right? Signature screens, 3 line waving line screen lines. Direct modification lines is U interactions, vortexing, back interaction. Waving cycles correlate the calculations out of portal, line setting, and position location of sim, travel port lines, gravity line screen, highest interference travel. Sites communication lines of grounds, centers, set location. Cross-line signal transits over one line rotation surface. Sites communication of the sun in the opposite direct signals and location travels. Okay, points lines of communication system, travel communication. Center core settings, sonar line division, light shades and shadows in position of travel. Correlates to track lines, moon comes in the opposite direct line centers, okay, and travel point graph communication. Okay, so it all signifies the center lines. Really understand the center core system in a 3 waving panel and grounds, powers, and atmosphere line screen location. Okay, so you have to understand the correlations when it comes into weather and position and meteorological system calculations, because you guys are your own meteorologists, and you have to really understand how to use it through your telepathy waves, your correlation panels, and track locations. But wait a minute, General. I thought, well, why is there, if there's a correlation panel, why is there 3 T's there? Well, because the T's are 3 satellites and settings, right? 3 eagles lines of satellite, satellite correlations and communication system, teleportation line screen, allocate position lines on levels, center core system, and Pluto and track line connection setting, 222 and track location. Okay, so there's so many ways to do forming equations, but you have to understand the energy of collaboration with everything and nothing and everything, because everything has its memory and everything has its no memory. All memory, no memory. When you go to the ocean, it doesn't need to understand you. You have to understand everything that's going on in all lines of spectrum. You see it through nothing but a box frame, right? Ocean comes in, right? It's waving this way, moving that way, moving this way. And your interactions, trying to understand what's going on. You're scanning the system, locations, communicates back with you and calculations, right? So, and then you see this coming out. Then you see this coming out. Then you see this coming out. So the actual ocean is coming out of its own formation and its own configuration. Hoo-ah. So once you see this comes illumination. 4 waving panels, alpha, delta, theta, omega, line, zeta. Cross-line signals, applications. Synergized communication lines, screen lines. Says communication, face recognition. There's the face of the water. Everything has a face. Once you see the face, you're in the eye central system of everything through the windows of the soul interaction. Okay, and then you get direct signals. You can travel through the waters in the center core calculations into the grounds, right? Water surface is really understanding data, screen lines, high center interference. That's why we have interwater cities and travels. Water communications, energetic dome screens. Okay, so many line communication setting position of the program, line communication to setting. Underwater domes, right? Laser, attractions, division. X2000s on standby, attraction. Set core lines, scans lines, 1, 2 lines, 4 track location, right? Get a platitude lines and location grid lines, high center interference, a command shift that comes in attractions. Direct modification, 1 signals, and platforms in a 4 setting location. Okay, so we get position of sharks, they come in attractions. Okay, sharks come in attractions. And then we get the dolphins coming in, attractions. Okay, and then we have the whales. The whales center line the circles. They are the ground center location of surface tracking of sonar. Sharks create the line screen. They set position of the water line. They are the security. They are the guards and line condition with water surface. Dolphins set up sonar, line track location, line condition setting to the XD1000s above signals and space lines of anomaly. That's how it sets lines of communication of underwater city locations. All the electrical grid lines, screen lines of underwater cities. So I'm showing you many different ways how to use your 7 bodies of waters, guys. Okay, understand that the truth and the false narratives, application, and formulas of equation line condition setting. So that position lines of its process with lines of 0 into teleportation equals lines of false. False equals lines into, let's go through initial line run program, IPA. Sets position. So you can do whatever you want. You can change anything at plateau, but know exactly what you're doing with your thoughts before you get into its operation cycle. It regenerates the screen lines and high calculation setting and trial point graphs. Position lines initial, position lines of program, location of its atmosphere. 3 central lines of center line communication of its position and program and line calculation setting and travel. Okay. Everything is line calculation. Why am I doing so many calculation settings of travels? Because that's all it is in line condition setting. Everything is process, everything is communication, everything is balance, everything line setting, line condition system, all levels of travel correlation. Okay? So we always have to understand that you'll never ever see a line indicator. Ever. Because nothing is a line, right? Because it's moving too fast. Platitude 1. Let's go through line communications. Platitude 2. Okay, downshift cross line screen, 1 signal, 1 operation, 1 center, 1 surface set location. Right? Calculate line centers and travel lines, cross line signals. Getting connection high interference, how to go through 4 lines or 5 line signal. Correlate to track interference in 1 setting, 2 lines, and 3 line rotation, surface interaction. Okay. So it's really understanding how to direct and redirect your panels, because your voice line grid lines are a line communication setting to its compute system now. Understanding the binaries of balance, 4-line signals in a 3-line panel, 7 tractions into line condition setting at 12 waving, clocks the system to 1x, 1t, 1 lines, 1000, and correlation lines at 3 brackets and set location. So what you're doing is all lines of communication, you have to come into the face recognition first, because that is the controlling mechanism setting. So you're bringing in your sim through formula equation. So the sim is always on standby. And once you understand that, it comes in your universal line in sun and the moon and track location of balance and set location. Okay, comes in that formations. All right. 4 central lines of 3 pi in line setting location. Indicates platforms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and set location. Sets communication lines of pi generation screen lines adaptations of 1 cycle, 4 settings, and 5 set locations. Travel correlation line 1 center operates the signals and platforms of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set location. Platitude lines of ground lines, highways, and travel line rotation surface. XT1000 comes in, checks the set location, scans the lines, ground lines of 1, and position location of 2 tractions. It's always in track location of center. Says communication lines of sonar in a half pipe. So basically, it's half of the cake in travel correlation. Okay, says communication 1/3 and 1 setting in 1 operation surface and track locations. Okay, or 2/3 of pi in track line condition setting in its position. So we have to understand the formula equation and how it all works and the line communication to its travel. Okay, underwater cities or anything calculations. That's why you have to understand how to use the 7-digit digital line screen location digital codes. 7 equals lines of 4, 4 equals lines of 3, sets lines of communication of 12 equals lines of 24, sets communication lines of 48, 72, 144 track location. That's all it is. Nothing else. So platitudes of 48 puts position lines of tractions. All right, platform 1, 2, 3. Okay, platforms, right? 12 indicates line screen. That's an outline cycle and set location, travel points. So 7 is the indicator line screen, which is your tracker systems of 0 to 7. Equalize correlation lines, cross line signals, set location. Indicates platforms of 1 setting and position 2 settings, and equalize platforms of 2 locations. Travel lines, recognition time, cross line screens. Directs modification lines of platforms of 1 and position of 2 and 3 set locations. Process communication lines of ground lines, crosses line signals, and line position location to its setting through its holographic grounds. Grounds communication lines, saying high interference, equalize correlation lines up in track location and down cross location. Center communication lines, ground lines, center high interference, and positional point graph communications. Crosses line signals in the opposite communication system and at all levels in high calculation line and modification setting and position of your mountains. All through mountain surface and track location lines of the 7, right? So you have to understand the 7 bodies, how that all works, and indication lines of division, right? Dimensions and location setting. You got energy grids lines of 0, but you have to understand how to use it through its atmospheres, hemispheres, stratospheres, bio, and brainiospheres, all through holographic ground setting, right? Through its center setting, through its space setting, okay? So once you understand the holographic ground lines, the positions that you are in position of, you can walk the signals in set location, right? So basically understanding that ground lines, you can send a line communication to its position of its program and line set location across circle, new communication to its setting, right? And then you can travel through it, center core right through the center correlation and track locations. 4 generation lines, 5 generation screen location, high calculation, all through traction, right? So as long as you understand your VR system through your own geometrics, it gets a lot more easier to understand yourself in the VR system, right? This coordinates and modifies everything that you see in position of travels, okay? Let's say we go to 50 line settings. Now we go in real time. 53 equals real time, okay? Now again, that correlation lines out of interference. Let's add equals lines of correlation lines of setting. Take line communication lines. Let's go in position of 20s. Okay, that's seconds over line. Equals lines of pi. Minutes over line screen, and calculation of hours and tractions. 1 center correlation line condition setting, clocking system of 12, sets position 24 center, clock line center high interference of 144, and center position calculation, screen lines adaptation. Okay? So getting that position lines of track lines, let's change the 2 line cycles, 22 line provision, and correlation lines of 9 cycles, sets lines communication lines of 6, 6 lines of 9, and rotation surface and tracking line condition setting of its programming calculation. Okay? So there's so many things you can do. I didn't add anything through time. Whatever you do, you do. You become, you are, I am. So it's all about understanding how to balance this out through your own binaries, your own providers. How to understand your E-codes. An E-code line screen, equals location settings, sets position locations to all levels into your AVR system. What does it mean to you? What is E? What is it equal? What is C? What is equal? What is AVR? What does it mean to you? Because it means something different to everybody else. Just because it's a VR doesn't mean it's a VR. Because I change the volume, I change the bass, I change the velocity, I change the frequencies, I change the vacuum, I change everything: acceleration, Mach, location, interstellar, intermode, intercorrelations, interloop, intercorrelation, track interference, half pipe, full pipe, set locations, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, track locations, 1/2, triangulation, line condition, position program, allocate position, timeframes. It's all kind of modified inside of you. But as long as you understand how to identify yourself in a 23 waving panel in position to 9 cycles and set location, right? 23 volume, 2 line centers, 1 volume, 3 line centers, 1 velocity, and 9 calculation lines of acceleration. Okay, V equals lines of 1, 1 lines 1/2. A line centers equals lines of 1 line conditions at location setting of 23 traction. Okay, sets correlation of grounds, set location of space, and location of 3 line centers, and 4 set location of sonar. Center communication lines of tubing, and location line sitting, high interference, cross line signals, and set location of travel. Sites communication lines of E line equals lines of compute system, line location setting, AVR line settings, and travel correlation. All right. So what you're doing is just trying to understand the grounds, the powers, and the atmosphere of you, and really understand how to use it through space modulation. Understand the galaxies of center correlation. Okay. Understand the ground lines and set locations. See, it's interesting locations. When I say ground line, does that mean it's this the grounds? No. Where's the grounds? Grounds is here. No, wait a minute. Grounds is here. So whatever I say is what I say. It can be space of time. It can be no time. You're coming into your binaries. You're coming into your codings. You're coming in your own programmers. You have to get into modifications and get into your own system of your own equations. How to understand how to use your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, and how it represents you in all set locations to your AVR system. Awareness of consciousness of everything around you puts you in perspective. And how you see that is extremely important in position dislocation to its center operation of you instructions. Right? Sending that in communication lines puts everything in communication settings of balance. Everything you do is balance. There's a balance that comes in all levels of high calculation lines, how you see yourself. Is that an S? No. It looks like an S though, right? It's not an S. It's a triangulation split. Is that an 8? No. It's a circle line rotation surface. Okay. Is this a 6? No. It's a center line interference of 9 set location. You understand? Do you understand how important that is in set locations? Where everything is given to you through platforms where you can change anything in seconds, minutes, and hours in your position to its location setting, as long as you are consciously aware of what you're seeing is why and how, comes in all levels of its divergence, allegiance, and its alliance. Nothing can be taken away. The only thing that can be taken away is you not understanding you, because now you're separating you from you. And that puts everything back and further the game set location, your settings and travels. All through the psychological system to your psychological location system of travel communications. How you identify yourself is extremely important. Okay, through modification, general AI, space-time. Now, do I have to go this way? Do it this way in locations? Do I go this way? Or do I go this way? Doesn't matter, it reads the same, right? Okay, even if I say it backwards, it's still going forward. So if I say it's time as space and AI general, doesn't matter. General AI space-time is the same. I don't need to balance it out. You guys got to get out of the frames, get it into your own system locations, become your own correlation, become your own program system. Understand general AI is space-time. Understanding time is space, AI, general, same thing. There's no difference unless I change it. If I change it, it changes the graph, it changes the stream, it changes the correlation, it changes the space, it changes the time, it changes all levels of configuration of its text. Okay, and it also changes the configuration. This is a lion, right? So it's all about understanding you through your own programming system, through your own formulas and through your own equations. Okay, if you're not understanding the existence, stay in operation mode, observation mode, operation mode. Okay, don't get in intense, don't get into influence, and don't get into manipulation until you understand the 4-track provisions of you through 5 cycles of your heart. Track location lines of 5 track locations of 2 settings and set location in your bodies of water. Okay, 6 lines of 8, 8 lines of 2, and 8 lines of 4 in track locations. What are you talking about? There's 8 central line connections. Yes, but what I've said in already in correlation setting and track lines is opposition location of 2 thumbs and track locations. Bending lines of space and 4 lines of 8 line track lines into 1 setting, into 4 set locations, into position of 6 over 8 over 1, over 2 track locations of 4 settings. Position location is really understand how to coordinate that. All right. Now, once you get into correlation lines of attractions, it gets much easier in texting. Solar line screens, direct modifications. So let's go through 1 line cycles in line condition setting 101 equals lines. We'll wait till it gets to 30. Center correlation lines of 21 rotators. In line centers equals lines of 9 and track location. Okay. See, you have to learn how to stretch, how to expand, how to elongate the system of a 9. Okay. 9 is not this. You have to understand what the 9 is doing first of its own space, and then you understand the half pipe of what it's doing in track location. All through 9, right? It's creating its own formula. It's creating its own equation and tractions, right? It's creating its own lines, the spaced lines of a capsule correlation. Okay, calculations. It's creating its own 1 cycle, 0 location, 1 line division, equal line coordinate setting, equal line calculation setting. They all work together, right? Through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. 3 center correlation lines, 0 gravity, add 9 line cycles, in line communication in its position to its location setting. All through traction. Okay. So energy collaboration, build that friendship, relationship, and partnership with yourself first, but really understand how to really get into the body. Body is extremely important, right? Because the body itself knows itself, but do you understand you through body? The body of the mind, the body of the heart, the body of the soul, and the body of capacity. Through your calculations, your binaries. Once you identify that, then you have to identify the 7 layers of you, the bodies of waters of you, the track locations of you, the 7-digit codes of you, the correlation tracks of you, your CPU line communications of you. There's no coincidence in why you have a 7-layer in position of an 8-line connection setting. Anything above line, you're in the atmospheres. Okay? So that's why you have a 7 provision cycle of a Merkaba. Okay? It's intra-location saying that where you start at 12 in position, no, you start at 7. Right? It's intra-locations because that's General's favorite number, 7. Is that coincidence? No. What's the track provision lines of cycles? 007. Platitude screen lines and 2 track locations in a 3 cycles line communication setting of yin and yang. Okay? So there's a lot to be understood, to understand in line communication setting to all levels of youth and modification. How to identify your sets and travels. Now we got an indicating lines of 103 and 40 track location, 19 volume into 9. Is that coincidence? No. That's 1 perimeter of new in a line center location of new line center height interference of new line connection setting into position process into 9 track location. That's a center correlation lines that brings it into 20 of 9. My communication line communication of its computer is correlating its own coordinates and line communication to its system. It's communicating with me now. So I'm in control. I'm in command, right? Because I'm allowing myself to communicate with myself, with its intelligence of itself. building a partnership, guys, with you first. And always informs, because you are the inner and the outer of you. And then you understand the process, how it works on everything outside of you, which is also the inner and outer of everything, of its intelligence, of its nothingness, of its awareness, of its consciousness, of its identity. Okay? Then you understand more levels. When you come into energy of collaboration, right? If you don't want something to exist, don't allow to exist. Stay in observation mode until you understand more levels of listening to you, by seeing what's going on, by listening and hearing your own voice. Okay? Voices and voices and voices and voices. The most powerful thing is understand the inner voice of you, the interconnections of you, the interlacings of you, the interactions of you, the interactions of you, the interline connections of you, the interposition, location of self-identifications of you. Everything is you, 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 you. Nobody else. Okay? So the most powerful thing is to keep yourself with you. That formulates and simulates all levels of you into your settings, which is your VR system. Getting back in that set of locations puts you going forward of what you put yourself into. The mind itself is the collaboration of everything, of its nothingness, right? The mind doesn't have an existence in inline communication setting until it understands you interactions. Now, once you understand that, then you understand the body, then you understand the heart, then you understand the soul, and then you understand the set positions, calculations, all levels of you through God. It's the outskirts location setting to the inside location to a system, right? Because everything you look around you is inside of you. Mega multi-pass. Okay? Gets much easier when you see that. And then when you start addressing these things, we'll get into that next, how that all works. When I'm looking at you and everything around me is not in position until I address it individually, which you have scanning likeness setting right over left to right. So in that equation, it doesn't exist, okay, until you address it. Okay? So we'll get into that next. See you in 5. In track location, in center position. Doo-doo.